Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets bling. I have thrifted up a storm this week, not because I wanted to, because I had to. I have thrifted some rare vintage items, as well as a couple of items that I'm going to use to create something to house those rare vintage items in. I'm also going to be using scraps. I mean, like a lot of scraps. I mean, like everything's going to be scraps, leftovers. There you go.
You've tuned into Last Thing Thrifted, starring Monica from Up All Night DIY, Jody from Jody at Southern Seasons, Shelly from Repurposed My Way, Zaina from OK at Home DIY, Marika from Marika's Creations, and Annie from Crafting with Indie Annie Jones. You're going to find the links to their channels and this playlist in my description box below. Since this is a thrifting video, we need to go thrifting, and this is a plotted and planned trip. This is Sunday. This is the day at Goodwill where the color of the tags are changed. And this week's tag, starting today, is red. I am looking for something specific, so I make my way to the dish aisle. And they're still here. They're still here. I spotted these last week. I collect these, and I could not believe the stack of these plates that I saw. These are called Ever Yours Boutonniere. They're a vintage pattern, circa 1950, produced by Taylor Smith & Taylor. They also had saucers and little bread plates. Now check these out. Aren't they gorgeous? They are handmade in England, and they are not red tag, they are yellow tag. So somebody interested, as soon as yellow tag hits, come get these beauties. This pattern is considered highly collectible and rare, and I do collect them, but my collection is not large. It's growing. It just grew a lot by this last trip to good old Goodwill. This is what I had prior to that trip. 4 water glasses, 4 coffee mugs, this really cute little bowl, and a soup bowl, and that's it. But look what I have now. 10 dinner plates. Yes, 10. I had no dinner plates prior to this. I have 3 of these little bread plates. I'm not sure what they are. I need to look all this up now. And I have 9 of these cute little plates, and I have 5 saucers for my coffee cups. And I also picked up this platter. Now I do have one of these platters somewhere. I just can't find mine. So once I do, I will have 2 of these cute little platters. I have all these beautiful dishes now, and I really want a place to display them. So I went thrifting to my other thrift shop and my favorite place, and I couldn't find anything that I thought might work, so I thought I'm just gonna have to really make one instead of just like decorating something I find. So I grabbed this thing. It says $4. The lady gave it to me for $2 because she didn't know what it was, and there was actually 2 of these things there. So at least I took one of them off her hands. So I need to disassemble it, and the thing about that is this thing is put together with so many staples and nails that they probably ran out at the place they manufactured this thing, because it is manufactured. There is a very worn stamp on the bottom that you cannot read, but it is a manufacturer's stamp, and she is old. So anybody out there, if you know what this thing is, please in the comments tell me what you think this thing is, because I have no clue and I would love to know. So I need to disassemble it, and I will fight this thing until I get it taken apart. You watch. You watch. I will win. I will win over this thing. After a good 15-20 minutes or so, no joke, I did win. I finally got it apart. I didn't crack the wood. And there you go. Boom. There she is. And now I have kind of a cool weird piece, a little angled piece that looks like a weird L. And I have the piece that I'm going to use. I'm going to use just this front board. And I got a lot of staples to remove, and then we're going to move on. Other than the $2 piece and this cutting board Everything else is legitimately scraps from other projects. Absolutely scraps. This piece is going to set like this right on the bottom. That disassembled $2 piece will actually be standing up. So right now I have it laying on its back. What I will be doing is I will be taking these scraps. There will be a process with the table saw where I run some grooves through that cutting board, and these will slide in just like so and make a place for my plates to stand up. It's going to be pretty cool if everything goes as planned. This section will hold dinner plates. Now I'm going to make an upper tier as well, and it will hold those pretty other little plates that aren't quite that bread plate. And I'm not sure if it's a salad plate, but another piece of scrap wood and some salvaged 5-gallon paint stirrers to hold my plates upright. I will be using the salvaged piece off of a dresser. It is an apron to add to the top for decoration. I will be cutting it here and here, and then that center part will disappear, and these two outer pieces will go together and get glued. And this thing has a little cutout like so. This is actually what I'm going to be doing to my cutting board. And then this will slide just like so onto the top. So look how perfect that turns out. So if you have these weird pieces off of dressers and whatnot, keep a hold of them. I picked up these little round ball drawer pulls at Hobby Lobby for $1.99. You got 6 in a bag. And then I also picked up this little bag of checkers. They're stackable checkers, 8 in a package for $2.49. I will also be using 4 of these little discs that came in this box of goodies that I got at Hobby Lobby. This is a good deal. I think it was like $9.99 for everything in here. So I'm going to use 4 little discs and a checker, and I will use a drawer pull to make a cute little beefy bun foot for our plate rack. Since my drawer pull has a screw, I'm going to utilize it. I drill a hole through the checker, I glue it to a little wood disc, then I drill a hole down through the wood disc using that checker as my guide, and I will set them aside and let them dry. Once they are all dry, then I will come back and I will screw the little knob, that little drawer pull, onto the bottom. And now it's time to paint. I'm gonna paint my little feet, my little bun feet. Don't they look like a little bust, like a Lego head bust or something? A little head and shoulders. Oh, there's an idea for another time. I am painting these flat black. I am using the house paint that I love to use. This is just your cheapo gallon of Color Place paint from Walmart. It is the cheapest of the cheap, and it will last you forever. Just use the appropriate brush so you don't ruin your good craft brushes on house paint. I am prepping the paint part of this early. I'm going to get as much paint on my scraps as I can. It is nighttime. It is 20 some degrees outside, and I'm not going to go outside and cut these things tonight. So I'm prepping them. I'm painting the amount I think I will need for this project, and I will get as much prepped as I can before they get cut. These are the pieces for the bottom of my plate rack for the dinner plates. I will go through the exact same process with the paint sticks for the upper part of my plate rack for the smaller plates. I just kind of gauge how much of each paint stick I'm going to need, and then I start to paint it. I don't want to waste any of the paint or the rest of the paint stick because I might use that on something else, and I want to get as much done as I can before they get cut. These scrap pieces will act as the front of the bottom tier and the top tier. I have just enough to get a little facade, a little front on both of them, just enough. I came across some other scrap trim pieces in the garage that I'll paint up as well. They might come in handy for extra embellishments. This is the saw blade on a table saw. We are going to take that blade and we are going to lower it to about right here. And that is going to make our little recessed areas where we're going to put those strips. You move the fence close to the blade and it has to be measured out so that the blade and the fence are the exact same distance from where you want your first cut to be. After the first cut, then you will move your fence farther away from the blade. The distance between the blade and the fence will now be twice what it was after your first cut. This will ensure equal spacing between your routed lines. Because of the temperature outside, I did not film the whole thing. This is just a little demo to show you how to achieve a routed line. Here are all my components after a visit to the chop saw. Now I need to finish painting them. Both levels of my plate rack will be held on with wood glue, and wood screws because we need it to be sturdy. So I am doing some pre-measuring before I paint this. I am lining up the bottom with the bottom edge of what is going to be the back of the plate rack. I am pre-drilling 2 holes here and 2 holes here, just above that line that I drew. Then I can stand it upright, line up my bottom tier, and drill through this into that bottom tier. That way, when the time comes for assembly, there's no guessing game as to where to glue and screw this together. It will be lined up perfectly. Remember that dresser apron I told you about? Yes, I have more than one. Of course I do. Well, that center section has been cut out, and now I can bring the two together and glue them. Using wood glue, I run a bead of glue along the very tippy top of the back of our plate rack. Then I take the 2 pieces of dresser apron and glue the areas that will be touching so that they're nice and secure. I also run a bead of glue into the routed out area. Then I apply them to the top of our plate rack. I make sure that they are lined up properly and the little top of that arch meets and that the front of it is flat and level from one side to the other. I temporarily clamp the 2 pieces onto the plate rack and make sure I don't have any extra glue oozing out. And then I let it sit just long enough to set up, and then I will come back and add a piece of scrap trim to complete the top part of our plate rack. Once she's dry, I give her a nice coat of paint. She needs to blend with all the other aspects of this plate rack. It needs to look unified, so I'm not leaving anything bare wood. As cool as that old wood is, it really is cool. My nod to this old piece is leaving that routed out area in the middle. That is not getting filled in any way, so it will always be there as a reminder of how cool and old this thing really is. I am using these 2 pieces to create a front for the lower tier of my plate rack. I'm going to take these 2 and just glue them together. Nothing more, nothing less. They will get glued together and clamped to form the front of that bottom tier. This is how the pieces will go together, and the plates will sit right within those slats. I have a couple extra scraps that are going to go on the exterior of this bottom level of our plate rack. But first, we need to paint everything that didn't get painted last night. I will start with the underneath part of the bottom tier. Once that's complete, I will hit the back sides of the slats that are going to hold our plates. Now it's time to add those cute little bum feet. They're so cute. So what I'm gonna do to make sure they're all in the same location on the bottom of our plate rack is take one of the little round circle discs that I used for the bottom of my bun feet, and I'm gonna use it as a template. I have created a little line that is about the thickness of both the front piece and the back piece of my plate rack. I am letting it hang over that edge just enough so that way it will touch the bottom part of the front and the back when they are glued and screwed into place. I trace my little circle in all 4 corners and I let it hang off the front and the back, not off the sides. Once I'm done tracing my templates, I grab my drill and I drill out the little hole that the little screw is going to go into, making sure that I'm as close to center as possible. Once I get my hole drilled, I test my little foot to make sure it goes in there, and once I'm assured it does, I will wood glue these into place. Next, I paint the tops of both of my tiers, and then I can start the assembly process. Both tiers will be assembled in the same fashion. I start at the back and I run a bead of wood glue down into that routed out area, and then I take my little panel and I slide it into place. Now, keep in mind, you need to know ahead of time before you start assembling that that is going to slide in there properly. If not, you need to give it a little sanding. And then you need to make sure that it's positioned so that it does not go over too far one side or the other, or the side panels will not fit. Now, once I get one in there, I am going to paint it, because you're never going to get access to these panels again because your paintbrush won't fit once the next slat gets put into place. I continue in the same fashion with each slat as I go on both of my tiers until both tiers are totally complete and ready for their final assembly to the back of our plate rack. I will be taking this scrap of an old desktop to make a riser, and I don't have any more of those little round wood pulls, but I'm going to duplicate those little bun feet with that little checker and the little round disc, but I'm also just going to use a wood ball in place of that drawer pull. Before I add my little bun feet, I will give this entire thing a thorough sanding. I am going through the exact same process as I did when I added the bun feet to the bottom of the plate rack, but instead of that screw, I am putting in a really thin dowel rod. It's a skewer, it's considered a skewer, and I'm wood gluing it into place, and you can see how fabulous this turned out. Now I need to paint it. Here's another piece of scrap trim that I'm going to cut down so I have 2 equal lengths, the width of my plate rack, and use it as decorative molding. I'm just going to use my coping saw to cut this. This piece will be going on the top of our plate rack and might look familiar to you if you saw this video. I'll leave the link in the description box. This is a scrap that I took off of a shelf to create a really amazing sign. One last little project, I am going to be using a Pioneer Woman souffle dish and a saucer and a plate to create a cake stand. Now I'll be gluing these together with B7000. Make sure you get everything centered properly, and if you're building a cake stand, you want all your components to be the exact same color. You want it to look like it could have been part of that original set.
I have completed the assembly. I have touched up my paint. I have put my dishes in my lovely rack, and now I want to share it with all of you.
Here's our riser with some of my glassware displayed upon it. I can use it for my dishes or anything else I choose to display. And how about our cute little bun feet? They look great on the riser as well as the plate rack. The plate rack has a lot of detail, even though it's all monochromatic. I wanted to be able to use this plate rack with other dishes. I didn't want to pinhole it just to these Ever Yours Boutonniere plates. I want this plate rack to work in different rooms as well, not only here in my pantry, but in my kitchen and possibly my dining room. Here's a really good look at the construction of this plate rack. I left the route marks at the bottom as kind of a nod to that centerpiece that we did not fill in on the back of the plate rack. It holds these plates so nice. I am so happy. I didn't want to make it any bigger, even though I have more plates, because I didn't want it to look overwhelming. I just wanted it to be a beautiful little accent here in my pantry. My dishes fit between those slots so nicely, not too tight and not too loose. They stand up just perfect. I love this set of dishes. I can't wait to get more. I'm always on the lookout all the time. There is our cake stand. Isn't she pretty? So pretty. It looks just like it might have been part of the set all along. At this point, this is my collection. I still need to find that other platter, which I know I will. but this is what I have so far. I am in love with this dinnerware pattern. Thanks again to all of my co-hosts for joining me in this last thing thrifted. You're going to find the links to their channels and this playlist in my description box below. Thrifting update. I went back and I bought the rest. I bought all of these because I couldn't bear the thought of them ending up in a dumpster. So there you go. There you go. I bought them out. Happy I did. Happy I did. Not gonna have a bigger party. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family, your friends, anyone that likes thrifting or loves thrifting, repurposing, DIYs, vintage, and high-end decor. You can follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. Leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos. Don't forget to subscribe. It is a fabulous way to support my channel. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.